Today, we're jumping straight into something I've been really excited to share, a complete deep dive through BESS Chapter 2, Part 14 from my book, the Eco-Egypt Training Program. If you've been wanting to truly understand the rigorous engineering mechanics behind battery energy storage systems, you are in the exact right place. We are going to translate all that textbook theory directly into field-ready application. So here's our blueprint to reality for today's session. We'll start with what a BES actually is, touch on core battery technologies, tackle system losses and degradation, run through some step-by-step sizing, and finish up with grid support profiles.
All right, Section 1, what is a BESS? The energy buffer.
Look, we all know the massive problem with solar, right? The sun goes down or clouds roll in. It's totally intermittent. So the battery energy storage system, or BESS, is basically your ultimate buffer. It's the grid savior. It acts as that crucial bridge between a volatile renewable generation source and a demand load that frankly expects constant, unwavering power.
You know, there are really four main reasons modern solar installations are completely dependent on smart storage. First, it decouples generation from consumption. You can capture that huge midday solar peak and actually use it at midnight. Second, that obviously extends the usable hours of your solar. Third, it gives us some serious resilience against grid instability. It's like a heavy anchor when the utility grid starts to wobble. And finally, the moneymaker. It enables revenue capture through energy market arbitrage. You buy or store power when it's cheap and discharge it when prices spike.
Moving on to Section 2, core battery technologies, the industry standard tech.
When we're dealing with a utility scale setup, the baseline specs are intense. We're talking designing for a round-trip efficiency of 90% or higher, and we expect over 6,000 cycles out of our lithium iron phosphate, or LFP cells. Honestly, that means the battery is going to outlast a lot of the inverters hooked up to it. Plus, we're demanding a 15-year design lifetime, all applied to a massive 20 megawatt-hour reference project. This isn't residential guesswork, guys. These are the strict technical parameters you need for utility-scale viability. But before we even think about running the numbers, we have to pick our chemistry. Chapter 3.3 lays out this critical comparison between lithium iron phosphate, LFP, and lithium nickel manganese cobalt, NMC. Why does this matter? Well, it literally dictates your thermal limits, electrode wear, and your total life cycle costs. Generally, LFP is going to give you those robust cycle counts and thermal stability we just talked about, whereas NMC might give you a slightly different density footprint.
Okay, Section 3, system losses and degradation. Time for the harsh realities.
Here's the thing you absolutely have to internalize. A BESS is fundamentally like a leaky bucket, or, a bank account loaded with hidden fees. First, you've got round-trip efficiency, or RTE. Those are just the thermal and conversion losses from shoving power in and pulling it out. Then there's depth of discharge, or DOD, which restricts how much of the battery you can actually empty without wrecking it. And finally, state of health, SOH. This is the inevitable slow degradation of the battery's chemical capacity over that 15-year life. All of these factors slowly but surely drain your theoretically usable capacity. Which brings us right to Section 4, step-by-step BESS sizing. Let's do some real-world sizing math. Let's say your Phase 1 site analysis comes back, and it says you have a clean, perfect night energy demand of exactly 500 kilowatt hours. Now, in a perfect world, you just go out and buy a 500 kilowatt-hour battery, right? Yeah, absolutely wrong. Doing that is a really great way to get fired. Let's walk through the actual Eco-Egypt formula chain, peeling back one loss factor at a time. To actually deliver those 500 kilowatt-hours, we first have to divide by our round-trip efficiency of 0.88. Boom, now we need 568. Then we divide by our depth of discharge limit of 0.80. Now we're up to 710. Next, we account for that initial first-year capacity drop of 0.94, getting us to 755. And finally, we divide by our projected state of health at year 12, which is 80%, or 0.80. If we factor in a perfect 1.0 power conversion system efficiency, the math leaves us at a final, way bigger number, 944 kilowatt hours. This perfectly illustrates why engineering is all about anticipating reality. To guarantee your client actually gets their 500 kilowatt hours of usable power on some random Tuesday night, 12 years into the project, your installed BESS energy on day one must be 944 kilowatt hours. It's nearly double the base demand, and it's entirely driven by understanding the physics of degradation. All right, final section, Section 5, grid support profiles. Let's talk field applications.
According to Chapter 6 of the blueprint, there are three main profiles that dictate how this massive battery we just sized is going to interact with and stabilize the wider utility grid. Profile 1 is peak shaving, literally clipping off those highest demand spikes. Profile 2 is weak grid support, specifically QV or reactive power voltage support. And Profile 3 is your backup emergency functionality during a total grid blackout.
I want to focus on Profile 2 for a second because honestly, this is where a lot of junior designs just fail. Grid reactance is mathematically vital here. The training specifies that the 1.5 kilovolt voltage deviation and the 1.3 ohm grid reactance, which you find during Phase 1 grid studies, those directly feed our reactive power calculations in Phase 2. The BES isn't just mindlessly dumping raw energy. It is precisely injecting reactive power to push the local voltage back into compliance right through that 1.3 ohm impedance. And ultimately, all of this hard work, all the calculations, the grid studies, it all comes to life on the SCADA dashboard. That supervisory control and data acquisition system captures your active and reactive power, your voltage set points, curtailment commands, the whole shebang. It completely proves that these degradation factors and QV profiles are not just academic exercises. They translate directly into a living, breathing, continuously monitored 50-megawatt power plant operating dynamically right there with the grid.